Tired of trying to learn English? Learn through your emotions. Follow the story and find the missing words. And be careful not to miss any word or any scare. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and felt something was wrong? Not a noise, not a movement, just a presence. At 3:34 a.m., Sarah woke up to the sound of static filling her empty living room. The TV she'd left on was now showing only white snow that makes your skin crawl. But what she heard when she changed the channel manually made her blood freeze. Her own voice coming from the speakers, whispering 3 words that would change everything. Wake up. They're inside. Sarah was 28 and lived alone in a 2-story house in the suburbs of Portland. It was an ordinary Tuesday, the kind you forget 5 minutes after it's over. She'd come home from work at 6:30 p.m., ordered Chinese food through an app, and decided to watch Netflix until sleep came. Around 10 p.m., she was on the living room couch, covered with a soft blanket, watching the 3rd episode in a row of a true crime series. Ironic, she'd think later. The house was silent, except for the low murmur of the television. She had the habit of leaving the TV on when she slept. Complete silence had bothered her since childhood. Her eyes started to feel heavy. She blinked slowly, trying to focus on the screen, but her eyelids wouldn't obey her anymore. Just one more episode, she mumbled to no one, but sleep had already decided for her. The remote control slipped from her hand, falling onto the wooden floor with a dry sound she could no longer hear. Sarah fell asleep right there, on the couch, curled up like a child. The TV kept playing, automatically switching to the next episode, and then to the next one. The blue light flickered against the white walls of the living room, creating dancing shadows that no one was awake to see. Outside, the street was empty. It was almost 3 in the morning. The streetlights created yellow circles on the wet sidewalk. It had rained earlier. Everything was quiet. Everything was normal. Or at least it seemed to be, because if Sarah had been awake, if she'd paid attention, maybe she would have noticed something strange. The basement light, which she was sure she'd turned off before going upstairs, was on. And if she'd listened carefully, very carefully, she would have heard a sound that shouldn't be there. The almost imperceptible creak of a floorboard. Upstairs. In her room. But Sarah was sleeping, and she had no idea what she was about to wake up to. Did you catch the clues? Comment one word or phrase that describes Sarah's routine in English.
Sarah's first thought when she opened her eyes was, something's wrong. It wasn't a noise that woke her up. It wasn't a nightmare. It was a physical feeling, as if the air around her had changed temperature and density, like someone had opened a window in the middle of winter, but all the windows were closed. She opened her eyes slowly, confused. The room was bathed in a cold white light that hurt her eyes. It took 3 full seconds for her brain to process where that light was coming from. The TV. But it wasn't a show. It wasn't Netflix. It was static. Just static. That hypnotic pattern of black and white moving frantically, creating an unnatural glow that transformed her comfortable living room into something alien and threatening. And the sound. That sharp, continuous hiss that seemed to pierce her eardrums and settle directly in her brain. Like nails on a chalkboard, amplified 1,000 times. Like the sound of emptiness. Like the sound of something that shouldn't exist. Sarah sat up slowly on the couch, the blanket sliding off her shoulders. Her eyes automatically went to the digital clock on top of the bookshelf. The red numbers glowed in the darkness. 3:34 a.m. She frowned. The devil's hour. The witching hour. She'd read about it somewhere. Between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., the veil between our world and another place became thinner. People reported more paranormal experiences at this time than at any other. Sarah had always thought that was nonsense. Until now. She looked around for the remote control, finally spotting it on the floor, about 6 feet away. It must have fallen when she fell asleep. Sarah sighed, getting ready to stand up when something made her freeze completely. The clock blinked. 3:34. Blinked again. 3:34. Blinked a third time. 3:34. It was stuck, repeating the same minute over and over. And in that moment, with the static filling the air like a silent scream, Sarah realized that something was very, very wrong in her house.
Sarah forced herself to move. "It's just an electrical problem," she said out loud. But her own voice sounded strange, muffled by the static that filled the room. She got up from the couch, her bare feet touching the freezing wooden floor. 3 steps to the remote control. She bent down and picked it up, pressing the power button. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing happened. The TV kept showing that hypnotic snow that now seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Okay," Sarah mumbled, feeling a stab of annoyance mixed with something she didn't want to admit was fear. "I'll do this the hard way." She walked to the TV, a large Samsung she'd bought 2 years ago. It had manual controls on the side. She rarely used them, but knew where they were. Her fingers found the channel button, cold under her touch. Click. Channel 2. Static. Click. Channel 3. Static. Click. 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 All the channels showed the same thing, that endless pattern of black and white, that sound that was now starting to give her a headache. Sarah was about to just unplug the TV from the wall when she reached channel 13. And that's when she heard it. In the middle of the static, so low that she initially thought she'd imagined it, there was a voice, a whispering voice. A voice she knew because she heard it every day of her life. It was her own voice. "This isn't real," Sarah said out loud. But even as she spoke, the voice on the TV continued, getting louder, clearer, more impossible to ignore. "Wake up!" The words floated from the speakers, carrying an urgency that made the hair on her arms stand up. "Wake up! They're inside!" Sarah backed away from the TV like she'd been burned. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it over the static. She looked around the room quickly. The shadows seemed darker now, the corners deeper. And then she heard it. Footsteps. Coming from upstairs. Let's review. What does static mean in English? And how would you describe Sarah's reaction? Share your thoughts below.
Sarah froze in the middle of the living room, every muscle in her body tense as wire. The footsteps weren't her imagination, they were real, slow, deliberate, walking down the second-floor hallway, exactly above where she was standing. Creak, creak, creak. The unmistakable sound of someone stepping on the old floorboards, boards she stepped on every day, that creaked in specific spots she'd learned to avoid when she came home late. Whoever was up there knew those spots too, because they were stepping exactly on them. Sarah's brain went into survival mode. Thoughts fired in rapid sequence. Someone's in my house. How did they get in? How long have they been here? What do they want? Where's my phone? Phone. She needed her phone. Call the police. Her eyes scanned the room frantically and found the device on the coffee table. It screamed dark. With slow, silent movements, she approached and grabbed it, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Above her, the footsteps stopped. absolute silence except for the TV static. Sarah held her breath. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15. Then she heard something worse than footsteps. She heard her bedroom door opening slowly, the hinges groaning with that high-pitched sound she'd always wanted to fix but never had time. And she heard footsteps coming down the stairs. A person can't think clearly when they're terrified. Sarah learned that night. Her first instinct was to run to the front door, but it was on the other side of the room, and the stairs emptied out exactly between her and the door. She'd be trapped, exposed. Her eyes found the basement door just 10 feet away. The basement had an outside entrance, an old metal door that led to the side yard. If she could get there, could get out, Sarah didn't think anymore. She ran. Her bare feet barely made noise on the wooden floor, but the person on the stairs heard. Of course they heard, because the moment Sarah reached the basement door, she heard the footsteps speed up behind her. Someone was running toward her, and they were fast.
Sarah yanked the basement door open and practically threw herself down the stairs, her feet slipping on the wooden steps. Behind her, she heard the door open completely, slamming against the wall. They were coming. The basement was dark, lit only by the weak light coming from the living room. Sarah knew every inch of that space. Old boxes, the boiler, the washing machine, the exit door to the yard in the far corner. She ran blindly, tripping over something, a box of books she realized later, catching her balance and continuing. Her fingers found the phone still clutched in her hand. The screen lit up when she unlocked it, providing enough light to see the way. Behind her, footsteps coming down the basement stairs. Shit, Sarah whispered, dialing 911 while running. The phone started ringing as she reached the exit door. Her hands grabbed the doorknob, turned. Locked. No, she whispered desperately, searching for the key that always hung on the hook next to the door. The hook was empty. 911, what's your emergency? The voice on the phone sounded distant, unreal. Someone broke into my house, Sarah whispered quickly, her voice shaking. I'm trapped in the basement. They're here. Please send someone. I live on... A sound. Behind her. Right behind her. Sarah turned slowly, the phone light illuminating the basement. And that's when she saw a figure. Standing about 15 feet away, wearing a black hoodie, completely still. The police are on their way, Sarah said, trying to sound firm, but her voice came out like a squeak. They'll be here in 2 minutes. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. And then Sarah noticed something that made her stomach turn. In the figure's right hand, hanging by their side, was something that gleamed under the phone's light. Something metallic, small, a key. The basement door key. They'd taken it before she came down. They knew she'd come here. They'd cornered her on purpose. Vocabulary challenge. What's another word for basement?
Ma'am, are you still there? The 911 operator's voice came through the phone, but Sarah could barely hear it over the sound of her own heart pounding. The figure took a step forward, then another. Sarah backed up until her back touched the locked door. There was nowhere to go. The basement was a trap, and she'd run straight into it. They're down here with me, Sarah whispered into the phone, her words coming out fast and jumbled. In the basement, he's coming. He has a... The figure stopped, raised their free hand, and pulled back the hood. Sarah didn't recognize the face immediately. Male, young, maybe early 20s, messy dark hair, hollow eyes, blank expression. You've been sleeping on the couch every night this week, he said, his voice strangely calm, almost casual, always at 10:30, always with the TV on. Sarah's blood froze. He knew. He'd been watching. "The police are coming," she said, but her voice betrayed her fear. "You need to leave now." "I've been living in your basement for 6 days. I come in through the back door when you go to work. Leave when you sleep. Yesterday, I ate your strawberry yogurt. You didn't even notice." 6 days. He'd been in her house while she slept, while she showered, while she lived her life thinking she was alone and safe. "Why?" Sarah whispered. "What do you want?" The man tilted his head as if the question genuinely confused him. "I was cold," he said simply. "It's too cold outside. It's warm here. You didn't need to wake up. I wasn't going to do anything. I just wanted to stay." Upstairs, Sarah heard the sound she'd been waiting for. Sirens getting louder, closer. The red and blue lights started flashing through the small basement windows. The man heard too. He looked at Sarah one last time. "The TV," he said. "I turned it on. I thought you'd want to wake up." Then he ran up the stairs before Sarah could process, before she could react. She heard pounding on the front door, shouts of "Police!" heavy footsteps entering the house. When the officers found her in the basement 15 minutes later, shaking and crying, they said there was no one in the house. All the windows were open. He'd escaped. But when they checked the security cameras that Sarah didn't even know her landlord had installed, they saw something none of them could explain. On the recordings, at 3:34 a.m., the TV had turned on by itself, switching to static by itself.
If this story gave you chills, you need to watch our next video about the most used horror expressions in English. You'll learn exactly how to describe fear in real situations, from my blood ran cold to hair-raising experience. And if you thought 334 was scary, wait until you find out why this time is considered the most dangerous by the paranormal community. Click on the video showing on your screen right now. I guarantee you'll learn English in a way you'll never forget.